So my name's Dacre Montgomery, and I star in Gus Van Sant's Dead Man's Wire, and I play Richard, or Dick, Hall. The film is based on a true story, and it's like based is even kind of a loose word. It kind of is completely, in its entirety, something that happened and was televised, and it was a hostage situation between a mortgage broker and a very disgruntled citizen in Indianapolis in 1977, and I play the mortgage broker. No, I hadn't heard of this story before, but what was crazy is the screenwriter, Austin, had these hyperlinks in the script, and the hyperlinks linked every single phase of the televised hostage situation. So, for example, if I and the hostage taker were out in the street, you could see in the script exactly how that happened. You could click on the hyperlink and it would take you to us at XYZ point within the hostage situation, because they left the bank and basically had to get a car, and then the car had to take them to the hostage, Tony Kuritzis's, who's played by Bill Skarsgård, his apartment. Each phase you could watch what was televised, and that's kind of the absurdity of the story, is that as you see it in the film is exactly as it happened, which is wild. I mean, and there's so much kind of absurd comedy in that, and I think the film became a lot funnier than any of us expected. Boarding the film was kind of crazy. I just got a text one day that said, Gus Van Sant wants to call you about one of the leads of his next film, and I'm obviously a huge fan of Gus's. So I was like, that sounds great, and he FaceTimed me within 24 hours and was like, I'd love you to come and play this 55-year-old man in this period piece I'm doing. We're shooting it in 4 weeks from now. And that was a lot of information to kind of process for many reasons, as you can probably imagine, but was also fantastic news. And then he kind of proceeded, we ended up not shooting it for 3 months from that period. And he called me every 2 or 3 days. I was in Australia, and he would just call me to check in, and kind of humanized himself in a big way to me, and put me at ease, I think. There's always a lot of angst going to work with a director who you've only spoken to once or twice or 3 times, and moving your whole life to the other side of the world because you believe in them and their vision. And Gus, despite his stature in the industry, made an effort to call me every 2 or 3 days in the lead up for months to just chat about the film, but also about nothing, just about life. He's a true artist, and what I mean by that is and now having worked with him, he kind of just is guided by what's happening in the moment. And I didn't realize that's what I liked about all of his films until I worked with him. I just liked something about them that I think most of the general public likes about his movies, but I think I wasn't able to pinpoint that until we were shooting the film. And I was like, oh, it's this uninhibited, pure creativity. It's not about who you are, where you come from, what your background is. He's just interested in process and kind of finding it as it evolves in front of him in real time. And I've never worked with a director like that. I mean, he's already kind of One in a Million, an enigma, and all these amazing things, or words that I connotate really positive meaning to. But I kind of discovered a new level of that in chatting with him. I kind of said, well, who are you thinking for Tony? And he said, well, we're out to Bill Skarsgård. And I was like, well, Tony and Dick were like, 47 and 54 or 55 or something like that. So I was like, well, Bill and I are kind of, Bill's 6 years older than me, but he's still not 47, and a 5'2" Greek American man. So I was like, I was trying to wrap my head around that. And then I think for me, getting into that headspace, I had them recede my hairline. They shaved my hairline right back to about here. And dyed my hair gray and got rid of my eyebrows, and all of these things that Dick kind of aesthetically, kind of the way he looked. But I felt like I really went on board with this thing that Gus said was like, I don't care about the age, it's about the essence of the character. And so then I discovered that my character wrote a book after the hostage situation. Spoiler, he survives, you can cut that out. But he wrote a book, and the book talked a lot about that period of time locked up in Tony's apartment for 4 days. And that's what I connected to. I connected to the human aspect of this guy living under the shadow of his father, who owned the bank, who ran the company, who's really the true antagonist of the film, is played by Al Pacino. And I felt like I connected more to my character through that lens than the lens of age or the lens of 1977, because I can't connect to being a 55-year-old or someone who was alive in the 70s, right? So for me, I had to find another way in, as you do with any character. But I think that was really the book that my character wrote, and Gus also saying, it's not about his age, it's about this and what you give to the film in that respect. And he said the same thing to Bill. So the Dead Man's Wire as a device, as a whole, was really interesting, because in the first respect, there's the emotional component of having almost like a dance partner as a scene partner and feeling out how to move in rhythm, because if I pull too much or he pulls too much, the gun goes off. So theoretically what you're watching doesn't make sense, right? So we really had to move in unison. I've never had a scene partner like Bill before, and he really got me out of my head. I worked really intensely, lots of prep, super OCD, kind of let my mind eat itself when I'm working. And Bill was really good at getting me out of that space and getting me out of the limitations that I've created by that being my process, and really allowing and forcing me to live in the moment and take a more spontaneous approach to my craft. And that all sounds like gobbledygook until I actually just say that I guess the wire was the device that helped that happen. So more than the physicality, theoretically and technique-wise, that's probably what more was born from that dynamic with Bill than just having a dance partner for 19 days. The comedic tone in the film was definitely found through the process of Bill and I working together, 100%. It was this kind of odd couple dynamic that just somehow was born, you know, in the rehearsal period before we started shooting, and then became more and more evident until my partner came to set one day and she went, "You realize this is a comedy, right? This is hilarious what you and Bill are doing," like what we were doing on camera and off camera. And I think what's funny is you can look at it from the perspective of going, well, why was that born? Were we just goofing around? Both Bill and I are so intense when we work. It wasn't because of that, it was because of this unusual dynamic of being a hostage in a situation with a guy who's completely unhinged, actually really hilarious in his unhinged nature. And it kind of, and 4 days is a long time to be cooped up in someone's house. And the kind of concoction of all of that, or the combination of all of that, bred this kind of weird, exhausted kind of humor that kind of came out of that space for us. It was completely unexpected and completely discovered through the process of shooting, as opposed to something that was predetermined or prescribed by Gus. When filming ended, I felt as if, even more than the hairline and everything that happened over the 19 shoot days, I felt like I learned something new about my process. And you know, I get so stuck in my own kind of train of thought, and I'm really intense, and it kind of hopefully doesn't hinder me, but I know it can hinder me. And the biggest learning working with Bill and Gus and all the other amazing ensemble of actors was letting something go in my process as an actor and discovering something and being open to that discovery. So I think the hairline is kind of funny and ironic, because it's kind of something I let go of, you know, and something was discovered in that space.